It was the end of a long day for Jesus and his disciples. They had spent hours teaching and healing, walking from village to village, sharing the message of love and hope. Now, as the sun began to set behind the hills, they found a quiet place to rest. The sky was painted with hues of red, orange, and pink, and a soft breeze blew across the hillside. Despite the beauty around them, a heaviness lingered in the air. Jesus could feel it in the silence of his disciples. They were burdened, each one of them carrying the weight of their own self-doubt, guilt, and fear. They had given so much of themselves to others that they had forgotten how to be kind to themselves. As they sat in the fading light, Jesus observed them closely. Peter, the fiery and passionate leader among them, was staring at the ground, his mind replaying the mistakes of the day. John, the beloved disciple, seemed lost in thought, wondering if his heart was truly pure enough for the journey they were on. James and Andrew sat quietly, their faces marked with fatigue and worry. Even Thomas, who usually had so many questions, was unusually quiet, weighed down by his own inner conflicts. Jesus knew their hearts. He knew the struggles they faced, not just in the world around them but within themselves. They were good men, but they were also human. And like all humans, they were often hardest on themselves. They carried silent burdens, believing that their flaws made them less worthy, less capable. Sensing that they needed comfort, Jesus smiled gently and spoke. "My friends," he began, his voice soft and filled with compassion, "I can see that you are troubled. I can feel the weight you carry, the unspoken burdens in your hearts. Life's storms can be harsh, and sometimes we forget to be gentle with ourselves. Let me share a story with you, one that may bring some peace to your hearts." The disciples, drawn in by the warmth of his voice, turned their attention to him. They trusted Jesus deeply, knowing that his stories always carried wisdom that could heal their souls. As they leaned closer, the last rays of sunlight casting long shadows on the ground, Jesus began his tale. "There was once a young tree," he said, "growing in the middle of a vast, open field. This tree was small but full of hope. It looked around at the towering trees that surrounded it, the mighty oaks with their sprawling branches and the tall cedars that reached high into the sky. The young tree admired them and thought to itself, 'One day I will be like them. I will grow tall and strong, and my branches will stretch far and wide.' And so, the little tree worked hard. Each day, it pushed its roots deeper into the soil, soaking up water and nutrients. It stretched its branches toward the sun, determined to grow. But no matter how hard the tree tried, it always felt like it wasn't enough. It looked at the other trees, their thick trunks, their broad leaves, their perfect form, and felt ashamed of its own imperfections. Its leaves weren't as green, its branches not as strong, its trunk not as sturdy. The young tree began to doubt itself. "Why am I not like the others?" it wondered. "Why do I struggle so much to grow while they seem to stand so effortlessly tall and proud?" As time went on, the tree's doubt grew. It began to feel that no matter how hard it tried, it would never measure up. It would never be as grand or as strong as the other trees. And so, the tree's heart grew heavy with self-doubt, its once bright hope dimming with each passing day. Then one day a terrible storm swept across the land. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and the wind began to howl through the field. The storm was unlike any the tree had ever experienced before. The wind whipped at its branches, bending them almost to the point of breaking. The rain came down in torrents, and the tree's leaves were torn away, scattered across the ground. The tree trembled in fear, certain that it would not survive the night. "I am too weak," it thought. "I am not like the other trees. I will break under the weight of this storm." As the storm raged on, the young tree's worst fears seemed to come true. One by one, its branches began to snap under the pressure. Its bark was torn and scarred by the wind and rain, and its leaves were stripped away until none remained. The tree stood there in the darkness, battered and broken, certain that it was doomed. It looked at the other trees, their branches still strong, their leaves still intact, and felt a deep sense of shame. "They are so much stronger than I am," the tree thought. They have withstood the storm while I have been broken. Hours passed and the storm finally began to subside. The wind slowed to a gentle breeze and the rain became a soft drizzle. The young tree, now stripped bare and scarred, stood in the aftermath of the storm, feeling utterly defeated. It had survived but only just. Its branches were broken, its bark scarred, its leaves gone. It felt as though it had failed. I am weak, it thought. I did not stand tall like the others. I am not enough. But as the days passed, something remarkable began to happen. The tree, though battered and broken, had not been uprooted. Its roots, though shaken, were still firmly planted in the ground. And from the places where its branches had snapped, new shoots began to grow. The tree's bark, though scarred, began to heal. And as time went on, the young tree found that it was stronger than it had ever been before. It looked at its scars, the marks left by the storm, and realized that they were not signs of weakness but of survival. The tree had withstood the storm not by being perfect but by enduring. Its roots had grown deeper, its trunk stronger. And from the broken branches new life had sprung. The tree understood something it had not realized before. Its strength was not in its ability to remain unbroken, but in its ability to heal and grow, even in the face of hardship. As the tree grew taller and stronger, it no longer compared itself to the other trees. It no longer wished to be like them, for it had learned that its journey was its own. The scars it carried were a testament to its resilience, a reminder that it had weathered the storm and come out stronger on the other side. And so, the tree stood proudly in the field, not because it was perfect, but because it had endured and grown through its imperfections. Jesus paused for a moment, letting the story settle in the hearts of his disciples. They sat quietly, each one reflecting on its meaning. Peter, who had often struggled with guilt over his impulsive actions, felt the weight of his self-judgment begin to lift. He had always believed that his mistakes made him unworthy, that his flaws were too great to overcome. But now he realized that, like the tree, his strength lay not in being perfect, but in his ability to learn, to grow, and to rise again after falling. John, who had often questioned whether his heart was pure enough to follow Jesus, felt a deep sense of peace wash over him. He had always believed that he needed to be without fault, without weakness, to be worthy of Jesus' love. But now he understood that it was not his perfection that mattered, but his willingness to grow, to heal, and to keep moving forward, even in the face of his own doubts and fears. And Thomas, who had wrestled with his own skepticism and doubts, felt a new sense of understanding. He had always feared that his questions, his uncertainty, made him less worthy than the others. But now he saw that, like the tree, his strength lay not in having all the answers, but in his ability to keep searching, to keep growing even when the path was unclear. Jesus, seeing the transformation in their faces, smiled gently. His eyes were filled with love and understanding as he spoke again. "My dear friends," he said softly, "you are like that tree. There will be storms in your life, times when you feel broken, when you feel as though you are not enough. But remember this, your scars are not signs of failure. They are proof that you have endured, that you have grown stronger because of what you have faced. Just as the tree learned to embrace its scars, you too must learn to embrace yours. For in those scars lies your strength." The disciples listened closely, their hearts softening as they began to understand the depth of Jesus' words. They had spent so long judging themselves, believing that they needed to be perfect to be worthy of their calling. But now they realized that true strength lay not in perfection, but in the ability to keep going, to keep growing even in the face of hardship. Jesus continued, his voice gentle yet firm. "When you face storms, do not despair. When you fall, do not condemn yourself. Instead, be kind to yourself just as the potter is with the clay. The tree did not break because it was weak. It bent with the wind, and in bending it learned to stand tall again. So must you. Be patient with yourselves, for you are growing even when you cannot see it." The disciples felt a deep sense of release as they listened to Jesus' words. They had carried the weight of their own expectations for so long, believing that they needed to be without flaw, without mistake, to be worthy of Jesus' love. But now they understood that their value was not in their perfection, but in their resilience, their willingness to learn and grow through their struggles. As the last light of the day faded from the sky, they sat together in peace, the warmth of Jesus' presence filling them with hope. They no longer felt the need to be perfect, for they had learned that their scars were part of their journey, part of their strength. And in that moment they knew they were enough, just as they were. Yet, Jesus continued, sensing that his disciples needed more to fully grasp the lesson. "Consider," Jesus said, "how the tree was never meant to be like the others. Each tree has its own purpose, its own beauty. Some are mighty oaks, towering and strong, while others are delicate blossoms. The young tree could not see its own worth because it was too busy comparing itself to the others. But it was only when it endured the storm that it came to realize its true strength. It came to understand that the scars it bore, the broken branches and healed wounds, were part of what made it unique. You too must learn this lesson." Jesus turned to Peter, who had often been impulsive and brash, but whose heart was full of love and loyalty. "Peter," Jesus said, "you are like the tree. You have faced storms, moments when you doubted yourself, when you believed your flaws made you less than the others. But you are not defined by your mistakes. You are defined by your willingness to stand again, to grow despite the challenges you face. You are strong not because you are perfect but because you endure. Your passion, your heart, is your strength even if it sometimes leads you astray." Peter's eyes welled with tears as Jesus spoke. He had spent so much time feeling unworthy, haunted by the times he had faltered. But now, hearing Jesus' words, he began to see his own journey in a new light. His failures were not the end of his story, they were the moments that had shaped him, made him stronger, just as the storm had shaped the tree. Jesus then turned to Thomas, whose doubts had often caused him inner turmoil. "Thomas," he said gently, "you too are like the tree. Your doubts are not a weakness, they are part of your journey. The tree did not grow straight and tall without challenge, and neither will you. But it is through those challenges, through the questions and the uncertainties, that you will find your strength. You seek truth, and that is a noble path. Do not be afraid of your doubts, for they will lead you to a deeper understanding." Thomas nodded, feeling a deep sense of peace. He had always worried that his skepticism set him apart from the others, made him less faithful. But now he realized that his doubts were not a barrier to faith, they were part of his journey toward it. Jesus then looked at all his disciples, his eyes filled with love and compassion. "Each of you," he said, "has faced your own storms. You have all been broken in some way and you all carry scars. But do not hide from those scars. Do not see them as marks of failure. They are signs of your strength, your resilience. Just as the tree grew stronger after the storm, so too have you grown stronger through your trials. And just as the tree learned to stand tall again, so too will you." The disciples, filled with emotion, sat in silence. They had spent so long feeling burdened by their own imperfections, by their belief that they needed to be without flaw to be worthy of their calling. But now they understood that their scars, their mistakes, and their struggles were not things to be ashamed of. They were part of what made them strong, part of what made them worthy. And so, as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the disciples felt a sense of peace settle over them. They had learned a powerful lesson, that self-compassion, the ability to forgive oneself, to embrace one's flaws and scars, was not a sign of weakness, but of true strength. For in those scars lay their stories, their growth, their resilience. And in that moment they knew they were enough, just as they were. This is end of the story. Please like this video and subscribe this channel for more Jesus story like this. May the God watch over you.